right? My job is to get 8 billion people to know me. If enough people know me, they'll buy from me. How many believe that? I'm not going to be a slave to one person or one vertical or one niche or one partnership. You guys have the whole world at your access. The whole world. And by the way, if you can't get South Korea to talk about you, you can't get South Indiana or Indianapolis to talk about you. There's people in Korea that are tied to Hawaii, that are tied to Columbia, that know somebody in Indiana. And it can just bang out like that. And I also believe that if I could get enough people to know me in one market, I think that there's something that actually happens. I think if you could push out enough frequency about your brand, yourself, your ideas to enough people that you hit some critical mass. I don't know if any of you agree with this, but I think there's a spiritual component to where if you can vibrate through enough, all of a sudden other people start thinking, I know that dude. I've said this for years. If I can get enough people, a very small percentage of the population to know me, I think the other 99% become convinced they know me.
Like status before building?
No, you do not need to reach a certain status. You need to assume the status now. You need to have the altitude right now to be the professional that says, hey, I know about fitness. Right. I know about plumbing. I know about trucks. Just take whatever you guys are certain about and post the shit out of it. And by the way, if you're not certain about it, write an article about what your uncertainty is costing you. You're going to figure out every possible angle. But none of that's going to happen until you guys make a decision to blow up. He's like, man, I can't do that. Why can't you, dude? Why can't you? The people that you call on, they're spending money on stuff they have fun on, right or wrong. So it doesn't matter. I'm telling you. Look, I've done $80 million deals. When we get to start laughing with people, we can do a deal. When you get people laughing, you can do a deal with them. If you're always like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to say that, I got to keep it professional, you need to be yourself. And you need to remember this, nothing you say to a customer can blow a deal, ever. Number 7, you can never blow a deal on something you said or did. You blow deals because you didn't do something. Nobody ever says, oh, I blew that deal because I didn't do something. They say, oh, I said this and it blew it. I did that and it blew it. No,
you guys don't like sales because you ain't got any courage. That's why you want to be the vice president of something. That's why you guys want to call it something else, okay? Most of you in the room don't even have sales on your card. You sell real estate for Remax, okay, or Keller, and you don't even have sales on. If you hate sales, you hate income.
Learned about people who know how to fail because I was in a failure business. If you're in real estate, it's a business of rejection, a lot of no's and very few yeses. And I made a study my whole life of trying to figure out why I had certain salespeople earning $3 or $4 million a year selling apartments. And then I had someone on average making $65,000. What's the difference? I studied and studied, and this is what I found. It was never the contacts I came in to the business with, which is what the common culture believed, because that evened out after the first year. It was never how hard they worked, because some of my worst salespeople worked the hardest. The only difference between the people that were hugely successful and those that were not, were they took less time feeling sorry for themselves. They almost had a lower IQ so that if you smacked them and hit them down, they popped back up and said, I'm so stupid, hit me again. And you know what? I learned as a hirer to lead a good team, I looked for that characteristic in everyone I hired, because if you could take a hit and keep coming back at, you always hit the finish line. And that was a singular difference between my superstars and everybody else. When the stock market crashed in Taiwan, I forget what year it was, I saw it on the 11 o'clock news, and what do you think I thought of? Carrie Chiang, my #1 salesperson, all of her business came out of Taiwan. And so I called her, couldn't reach her. I called her through the day, called her assistants, called her cell phones. I thought she committed Carrie for sure. But at 6 o'clock, now this is like, 20 hours later, she rumbles into my office. She's a very put together woman. Her hair was a mess. Her mascara was smeared, like somebody had beat her up. And what do you think she said? Babwa, I'm exhausted. I up all night. I get 168 new listings. What did she do? She talked everyone she ever sold a listing to. The sky is falling. You're losing your money. You better sell now. And then she immediately went out and she hired 2 Japanese-speaking assistants and sold those units to the Japanese that were starting to move into New York City. Poetry in motion on failure. Carrie Chiang. No surprise that today she How much money did she make last year? I'll tell you exactly what she made. She calls me every January and says, you know how much money I make? But now she says, I make more money than you. And she's right. Okay. She made last year $6,800,000 and some odd thousand to the penny, she tells me. Okay. How does she do it? I can tell you how she does it. She is great at failure. She doesn't have the failure bone in it. Let me tell you, rejection is the big kahuna in all entrepreneurship. Okay, show me somebody who could take a hit, and I'll show you a good entrepreneur. I don't know if I made that up, but I think I did. But it's all in how well you get back up. And you know what I have found, by the way? Because if you think about it, great salespeople make a couple $1 million a year selling apartments in New York City, which my great salespeople do. Great entrepreneurs. All the business comes from them. They manage their own business. They hire staff. They're entrepreneurs. And you know what I found is the only difference between the superstars making the millions a year and the person's barely getting by? The only difference, not contacts, not how hard they work. Some people work just as hard and don't make any money, right? It's how long they feel sorry for themselves once they get hit. Right? Some people could take a hit and milk it for 2 weeks. They're at their desks, they look like they're working, but they're not working. Mentally, they're not there. The great salespeople take the hit and then they jump right back up as though they've been hurt just as much as the next guy, but they work right through it and keep going. Let me tell you, if you have that skill, you should be an entrepreneur because you will be paid well for it. The single best thing I do, more than anything else I can do in building businesses for myself and these other people, well, just speaking for myself, is I fail well. If I fall on my face, let me tell you, nobody's better at pretending I'm not, thinking of a quick cover-up, trying to keep moving. And you want to know, in that act itself of getting back up fast, you always stumble onto something good. And you want to know one other thing. I'm not a religious person because I was raised so goddamn religious. I don't want to ever think about it again. But I do believe once you put your mind on going forward on anything, there's almost like a battle cry that goes out in the universe and the world rallies around you. It just comes to you fore again and again. So to have that kind of good faith that I'm just getting back up, even if I'm going to get slammed, life is fair in its own weird way, in that way, in building businesses. You will be swept up by some lucky chance. It happened to me every time I got back up.
Only thing I know for sure that will change your sense of self is the actions you take getting in front of other people. Other people. People you don't know. People you're scared to talk to. You're sitting there trembling. Do your pitch until you don't tremble anymore. Self-confidence, an inside job. It's not a suit you put on. It's not a car you drive. This is not something you buy. This is something you develop. Every business, I have 5 companies now. We'll do $100 million this year.
And I'm just wondering, in this weak, watered down, mediocre society that we live in today, in this reality TV world we live in today, I'm wondering if there's anybody left that's got the courage to say, after all I've been through, and all my ancestors have been through, and all my parents have been through, I didn't come through all of that just to fit in with normalcy. I have the courage to go after my dream. Is there a woman left in this entire Coliseum that's got some courage?
I started every one of those companies with no money. Zero money, man. Just hustle and grit and courage. I've called on people I didn't want to be with. I've done things I didn't want to do, okay? It is not about doing what you love. It's about doing whatever it takes to make your dreams a reality.